The problem with the Eagles is they haven't shown us that they can handle adversity.
I respect a lot about Jalen Hurts, but I think Jalen Hurts is also like the most overrated player in football. All right, that's me. I know I'm wrong. I take a lot of crap about that.
But I'm going to throw out this name in all seriousness. I'm going to throw out Jalen Hurts. I don't think you can summarily dismiss it because they were just in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and we saw how Hurts performed in that game against Patrick Mahomes. I would take that into consideration, and I would not shove aside the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts so easily.
Howie Roseman's got to be at the top of the list or very near to Executive of the Year. This football team's fantastic talent-wise.
I think it's a very short list, it may be no list, of teams better than them in the NFC. There are teams that may have quarterbacks that were taller, they may have more experienced coaches, but right now, find a team in the NFC that has a greater self-identity than Philadelphia.
Philly sports fans are notoriously hostile and short-tempered.
I'm tired of fucking losing, dude. I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of being a bitch. I'm tired of being a sorry, sad-ass motherfucking organization. I'm going in, bitch. I'm going in. I don't give a fuck.
The calls for Nick Sirianni to be fired were being taken seriously, and Philly knew that the 2024 offseason would be make or break for their future. So GM Howie Roseman got to work putting together one of the most incredible offseason masterclasses of a generation, filling every single need on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. And he even managed to somehow do this.
Former Giants running back Saquon Barkley has reached an agreement with the Philadelphia Eagles.
All Penn State fans or Eagles fans are losing their friggin' minds right now.
There's a lot of them.
Oh my goodness.
But how did they do this? How did the Philadelphia Eagles go from a team looking completely lost and become perennial Super Bowl contenders in the matter of one offseason? This is why the Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl contenders. Are you looking for a new book this football season? BetUS is the answer. They have the fastest and easiest payouts in the industry, along with 24/7 personalized service 365 days a year. Not only that, but they have live wagering on all major games, so if you see something mid-game and want to make a wager on it, you can. And the best part is you get 10% back on your net losses twice a year. And now look, you guys knew I had to come through with you guys for a promo code, so make sure that you guys are using code YouTube150 for a nice 150% deposit bonus on up to $2,000. That's right, we were doing 125%, but we said screw that, we're giving you guys 150% instead. Again, that is promo code YouTube150 for a 150% deposit bonus on up to $2,000. Again, thank you to BetUS for sponsoring today's video, but for now, let's hop back into it. Now, to really understand why so many Philly fans were just kind of worried about their team coming into 2024, we really need to look back on last season and just the terrible collapse that this team had in 2023. As we all know, the team got off to a flying 10-1 start, their second in a row, teeing them up for another strong playoff run. Instead, the Eagles went 1-5 in their final 6 games of the season, letting the number 1 seed with it slip out of their grasp. A 32-9 loss in Tampa Bay was the final nail in the coffin of an ugly season as fans began to seriously question the quality of the Eagles' coaching and play calling. And yet, as the 2024 season does unfold, they look more than ready and prepped to challenge for another NFC title. And not only that, but they're comfortably leading their division as well. The 2023 season was one to forget for a team that held so much hope. I mean, really, both sides of the ball were a complete disaster, being highlighted by a sloppy defense and a painfully just predictable offense. I mean, hell, even when Christian McCaffrey was, I think, on the Peyton Manning broadcast or was being interviewed, he literally called the play of what the Eagles were about to do.
Jalen Hurts is running a QB draw to the left. The tight end's going to pull. He's deep. Tight end's deep, so he's sifting backside. There you go.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
But I mean, to their defense, or I guess really just Eagle fans in general, the shock of them losing that many games shouldn't have come to that much of a surprise. 8 of their 11 wins came in 1-score games. And not only that, but their defense also ranked as one of the worst units in the NFL last year. Adding insult to injury was the retirement of 2 franchise legends in Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox, both stalwarts on the offensive and defensive line respectively for over a decade. And really the key to this offseason that they just had was finding key players to fill those gaps that they needed to fill. But before that, Philly thought they needed to handle their coaching staff first. Offensive coordinator Brian Johnson and defensive coordinator Sean Desai were both let go, and Vic Fangio, revered for his tough, no-nonsense coaching style, took over defensive coordinating duties, while Kellen Moore came in as the offensive coordinator for 2024. And by starting with the signing of veteran Brandon Graham to a one-year deal, allowing him to play his 15th season as a Philadelphia Eagle, the roster was slowly coming together. Apart from their record appearance holder, Roseman signed many of Philly's biggest playmakers to crucial extensions, including A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, while also securing their future of their powerhouse O-line by extending Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson. And then, as we all know, Roseman generated one of the biggest free agency headlines all offseason.
Former Giants running back Saquon Barkley has reached an agreement with the Philadelphia Eagles.
I mean, then when you pair that with the rest of the free agent pickups with the likes of Bryce Huff, Zach Bond, and Mekhi Becton joining, not to mention the return of CJ Gardner-Johnson, who is a key difference maker to this team in their 2022 Super Bowl run, that makes him the perfect fit for Philly. And now with the roster completely sorted out, the coaching staff went to work and started to get these guys ready for the season. On offense, this consisted of Kellen Moore collaborating with Jalen Hurts, focusing on improving his effectiveness against the blitz, which had been one of Hurts' major weak points late last season. Now without Jason Kelce calling the pass protection, it would fall on his handpicked replacement Cam Jurgens to help Hurts in the offense rediscover their rhythm. Meanwhile, Fangio was organizing a young but very hungry defensive unit, which had received some much needed help in the secondary via the draft in the form of Toledo's Quinyon Mitchell and Iowa's Cooper DeJean. Their season opener was going to be a tough test, facing off against a Green Bay Packers side that had finished 2023 absolutely on fire. With Kellen Moore taking over play calling duties, the league finally got a glimpse of what Saquon Barkley looks like behind an elite offensive line. He was responsible for 3 touchdowns in his debut, contributing 132 yards of total offense on a night to remember in Brazil. And now, yes, it wasn't all great though, as the offense did show some growing pains as Hurts threw 2 interceptions and Jurgens gave him an awful snap early in the game, which resulted in a turnover. And I mean, it really was impossible to deny that Philly did leave a lot of points on the board that night with really wasteful red zone play, but overall they did come out with the win, so that's really all that matters. The defensive unit did fare well. Despite conceding 29 points, they kept an explosive Green Bay offense contained as best as they could. The real concern was the big yardage plays they gave up, conceding 2 65+ yard touchdown passes. However, when they couldn't stop the Falcons from a game-winning field goal drive with less than 2 minutes to play in their home opener, it felt like Philly fans were losing hope in their team again. Not only that, but missing A.J. Brown didn't seem to be enough of an excuse for the 22 points they put up given the rest of the talent on offense. An unconvincing 15-12 win at New Orleans, which saw Devonta Smith go out with a concussion, gave the Eagles pretty bleak prospects of avenging their postseason loss to the Bucs the following week. And of course, as expected, their trip to Tampa Bay in week 4 ended in an absolute disaster on both sides of the ball in a 33-16 loss, where the offense was pretty much just bleak and the defense was effectively just invisible the entire game. And I mean, overall, it was just a total lack of consistency, especially when you consider all of the guys that they just brought in this past offseason to try and avoid that from happening. And then it happens again, and it's like, do we blame the players or the coaching staff? And well, again, the coaching staff was getting a heavy amount of blame for that loss and just the remainder of the season. Like, I mean, after that game, how do you allow Jalen Hurts to get sacked 6 times in that game against the Bucs? And more importantly, how was the coaching staff just allowing this to happen with the stacked roster that they did have coming into the season? Like, it was just incredible to see them squander or just waste all of that talent for the first 4 weeks of the season. And Philly did head into their bye week surrounded by negativity, needing to bring some kind of response in week 6. But it shouldn't be understated that the entire coaching staff was at risk of losing their jobs just a few weeks into the season. They had built a roster to win and win now, and it just wasn't happening. And now look, if they would have lost 1 or 2 more games, Sirianni probably would have been fired. But the bye week pretty much saved their season, and that never happened. That bye week completely recalibrated this team and effectively flipped the script on this 2024 season, as they look as the only team to pretty much be able to challenge the Detroit Lions right now, especially with the things that I'm about to mention. And as crazy as it sounds, it literally had to come with a serious confrontation with Sirianni on the first day back from the bye week, where offensive linemen Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson, and Jordan Mailata met with the head coach and asked him to lead a more more run-heavy offense. Like, I mean, given all the weapons in the receiving game, it can be easy to forget that the Eagles have one of the best offensive lines in the league. And I mean, even as Malata said here, before Saquon got here, you had us. Now you have us and Saquon, so use it. And from there, the Eagles would get back AJ Brown and Devonta Smith back for the game against Cleveland, which saw both grab a touchdown in a tight 20-16 victory. And now look, it was far from pretty, but again, they did get the win, and the defensive unit looked much better after the bye week. Like, I mean, Cleveland's only touchdown that game came from the special teams unit and not on the offensive side of the ball. On the other side of the ball, Hurts played a lot tidier than previous weeks, helping Philly find a way around the Browns' formidable rush defense. The Eagles would truly spread their wings though that following week in Saquon Barkley's revenge game against the Giants. A 176-yard, one-touchdown rushing effort was almost a career best for Saquon, who was thankfully mic'd up that day and gave us one of the most insightful moments of the
13
season.
yards away from your career high. I would love for you to get that, but that's up to you. I just don't want, I'm going to take out all the starters if they don't score.
You good? Let them eat.
You sure?
Yeah, good.
You sure?
I promise.
I'll listen to me. I want you to do it if you want to do it.
So I'd rather see the young boys eat.
And now you see the main key to the Eagles' turnaround has been their change in attitude across the entire board and just the entire team in general. Sirianni's team building tactics have been labeled corny or even over the top by some, but there is unquestionably a winning culture in Philly, which has been lauded by his players in the media. While the defense did have very little to do against the Giants, they would be tested in a trip to Cincinnati where the Bengals shot out to an early lead. The Eagles responded with a remarkable second half offensive performance, which has been something of a theme. Jalen Hurts put up a near flawless game, completing 80% of his passes for 236 yards and a score, as well as running in 3 more on the ground in a convincing 37-13 win. Some spectacular offensive plays saved them from a second half collapse against the Jaguars at the start of November, and another monster performance from Barkley, who finished just shy of 200 total yards for 2 touchdowns and probably performed the play of the year in that game. The Eagles soared to back-to-back wins against division rivals, demolishing a Prescott-less Cowboys team in Dallas before outdueling a red-hot Commanders team 26-18 at home to lead the NFC East by a game and a half with 7 to go in the regular season. Like, I mean, it's safe to say that pretty much the turning point for this team was at the bye week, but more so, if you really want to get deep into it, more so for the defense. The Eagles' defensive unit has allowed the fewest yards in the league after making notable changes to the lineup, notably the introduction of Cooper DeJean in the place of veteran Avonte Maddox as the primary slot defender. DeJean has the highest coverage success rate in the league since week 6, while his fellow rookie cornerback Quinion Mitchell has looked like a man reborn following the bye. Mitchell has locked up some elite playmakers and showed his versatility in coverage, allowing only 9 catches on 17 targets for 78 yards and no touchdowns in that span. Like, I mean, this rookie duo solved one of the Eagles' biggest weaknesses in one fellow swoop and are virtually impassable in Fangio's scheme. Not only that, but one of the biggest and most welcome surprises of this season has been Philly's starting linebacker duo of veteran Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean. Fangio moved Bond from outside to inside linebacker, and he enjoyed a career season as a result, ranking 2nd in the league in solo and combined tackles, as well as forced fumbles with 3. On the other hand, Nakobe Dean has had a drastically different trajectory with the Eagles than Bond. The Mississippi native was a divisive prospect out of a brilliant Georgia team in 2021, but has struggled for consistency in his first 2 seasons in Philly. He came to life in 2024 though, particularly after a spectacular game-sealing interception against the Jags. Not only that, but Dean's former Georgia teammate Nolan Smith has also been an invaluable option at outside linebacker for the Eagles, with 3.5 sacks since the bye week, more than his entire rookie season. And I mean, as their relationship with Bond improves, the linebacker unit in Philly will remain one tough unit to break down. Oh, and don't worry, because Dean and Smith aren't the only Georgia Bulldogs who have reached new heights this year in Philly. Jalen Carter is set to improve upon a solid rookie campaign in 2023 after a season learning behind Fletcher Cox, who encouraged him to work on his bull rush. Carter has emerged in 2024 a much more technically versatile player than before. Add to that more consistent play from a healthy Jordan Davis and the veteran presence of Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat, and Vic Fangio's defense looks more and more impenetrable. And like, I mean, even as we look at the stats since the bye week, they've only allowed 100 rushing yards once, while also allowing fewer passing yards in the 6 games since than they had in the 4 that preceded it. They've crucially given their offense more of the ball as well, shifting their focus to generating turnovers. An increase from just 2 between weeks 1 through 7 to 11 turnovers between weeks 8 through 11 has made Philly a truly dominant team, leading to far more convincing victories than they had in 2023. And not only that, but their offense has also cleaned up their turnovers as well, committing 8 before the bye, but only 3 after. And as expected, the Eagles' passing attack has been among the best in the league given the weapons at their disposal. However, Jalen Hurts has appeared far more comfortable leading the offense since week 4, failing to register a passer rating above 100 before, while he's gone over 110 in all but one game since. Their rushing output has seen a massive uptick as well, with Sirianni's decision to listen to his offensive line paying dividends, seeing the Eagles go from averaging 154 to 199 rushing yards per game after the bye. And I mean, look, even with injuries to Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, and Mekhi Becton, Saquon Barkley leads the league in rushing yards on what has been his best season to date. Hurts has contributed with 11 rushing touchdowns of his own, but Saquon has stolen the show with his 1,137 yards while averaging the most per game and per carry of his career. Barkley has firmly placed himself in the MVP conversation, especially if the Eagles can finish out strong to clinch one of the top seeds in the NFC and not let it slip away as they did last year. And I mean, even what Sirianni has said though, they've learned their lesson. Sirianni finally gave up the play calling and has listened to his players' concerns, a sign of growth and humility that has helped turn this team around and change fans' opinion on him. And now with Saquon Barkley playing the best football of his career, both coordinators finally finding a rhythm with the group to create a balanced, complementary football team, the Philadelphia Eagles are proving to be a force to be reckoned with within the NFC. And if you want to see how Saquon Barkley went from being completely homeless to a superstar in the NFL, then click this video right here.